Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about hypothyroidism, a condition you've probably all heard about, and some of you may even have it. In this video, we'll go through it in a very simple and easy to understand way. What exactly happens in the body, what symptoms it causes, and most importantly, what the treatment is and how it can be managed. So if you want to fully understand this topic once and for all, stay with me until the end of the video. To better understand hypothyroidism, let's first divide it into two main categories, primary and secondary. This classification helps us understand exactly where the problem starts and makes it easier to understand the pathophysiology of each type. In primary hypothyroidism, the problem originates from the thyroid gland itself. This usually happens for two main reasons. First, the thyroid follicles may be destroyed for various reasons. When these cells are damaged, they lose their ability to produce thyroid hormones, and as a result, hormone levels in the blood decrease. Second, there may not be enough iodine available, which is the raw material required to produce thyroid hormones. In this case, the cells are healthy but lack the necessary materials, so hormone production still decreases. Now here's an important point. In both situations, since thyroid hormone levels drop, the body tries to compensate through a negative feedback mechanism. As a result, TRH secretion from the hypothalamus increases, followed by an increase in TSH secretion from the pituitary gland in order to stimulate the thyroid more. But in secondary hypothyroidism, the situation is a bit different. In this case, the thyroid gland itself is completely normal, and the problem lies in the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Under normal conditions, the hypothalamus first releases TRH. This hormone acts on the pituitary gland and causes the release of TSH. Then TSH stimulates the thyroid gland to produce and release thyroid hormones into the bloodstream. However, when we are dealing with secondary hypothyroidism, this axis becomes disrupted. TRH secretion decreases, and as a result, TSH is also secreted in lower amounts. When TSH decreases, the thyroid no longer receives enough stimulation, and ultimately, the level of thyroid hormones in the blood decreases. Now that we're somewhat familiar with the mechanism of this disease, let's go through the disorders that can lead to hypothyroidism one by one. We said that one of the main causes of the primary form of the disease is destruction of the thyroid follicular structure. But the question is, how does this damage occur? If we want to classify them broadly, these causes can be divided into three groups: autoimmune, infectious, and iatrogenic. First, let's go over autoimmune causes. In this group, there are three important diseases: Hashimoto's thyroiditis, postpartum thyroiditis, and Riedel's thyroiditis. In all three conditions, the immune system mistakenly produces antibodies against thyroid follicles and damages them. However, the difference between these diseases lies in the type of antibodies and the mechanism of damage. In Hashimoto's disease, antibodies are produced against thyroglobulin and TPO proteins. These proteins play a role in the production of thyroid hormones and are present in the follicles. Therefore, when these antibodies attack them, the follicles are gradually destroyed and hormone production decreases. An important point about Hashimoto's is that it has a genetic predisposition, and certain genes can increase the likelihood of developing it. The next condition is postpartum thyroiditis. As its name suggests, this disorder occurs in women after childbirth. In this condition as well, antibodies such as anti-TPO are produced and can damage thyroid follicles. However, an important difference from Hashimoto's is that this condition is usually temporary and in many cases resolves on its own over time. Finally, we come to Riedel's thyroiditis. In this disease, IgG4 antibodies play a role. These antibodies cause destruction of the follicles and gradually lead to fibrotic tissue formation in the thyroid, which disrupts the normal function of the gland. An important point about this disease is that the fibrotic process may extend to surrounding tissues and cause additional problems. For example, if the recurrent laryngeal nerve is involved, it may lead to hoarseness. If the trachea is compressed, it can cause stridor. And if the esophagus is involved, the patient may experience difficulty swallowing. Another condition that can damage thyroid follicles is de Quervain's thyroiditis. This disease usually occurs following viral infections, which is why it is also referred to as subacute thyroiditis. In this condition, inflammation in the thyroid gland leads to damage of the follicles. When these follicles are damaged, the hormones that were previously stored inside them are suddenly released into the bloodstream. As a result, in the early stages of the disease, the patient may temporarily experience symptoms of hyperthyroidism. However, over time, as these hormone stores are depleted, thyroid hormone levels decrease and the patient enters a hypothyroid phase. One of the key features of de Quervain's thyroiditis is that, unlike many other thyroid disorders, it is usually associated with pain. Patients often complain of pain in the front of the neck, which may radiate to the jaw or ears, and the thyroid is typically tender and painful on palpation. An important point is that this condition is usually temporary, and after the inflammation subsides, thyroid function gradually returns to normal. But not all causes of follicular damage are due to disease or infection. Sometimes, medical interventions themselves can lead to hypothyroidism. These are called iatrogenic causes. For example, in some patients, part of the thyroid gland may be surgically removed for therapeutic reasons. Naturally, reducing thyroid tissue also reduces the ability to produce thyroid hormones. On the other hand, certain medications can also affect thyroid function and decrease the production of thyroid hormones. In such cases, the patient may develop drug-induced hypothyroidism. So far, we've mainly discussed conditions that directly involve the thyroid gland. However, in some cases, the problem is not in the thyroid at all, but in the hypothalamic pituitary axis. In these cases, we are dealing with secondary hypothyroidism. Under normal conditions, the hypothalamus first secretes TRH. This hormone stimulates the pituitary gland to release TSH, and TSH in turn acts on the thyroid gland to stimulate the production of thyroid hormones. But if there is a disorder in the pituitary or hypothalamus, this process becomes disrupted. As a result, TSH is not secreted in sufficient amounts, and since the thyroid does not receive adequate stimulation, thyroid hormone production decreases. One of the important causes in this category is pituitary tumors or lesions, which can disrupt normal hormone secretion. Another classic example in this context is Sheehan syndrome. This condition is usually seen in women who have experienced severe bleeding during childbirth. In such cases, blood supply to the pituitary gland decreases, and part of the tissue may undergo necrosis. As a result, the secretion of pituitary hormones, including TSH, decreases, which can ultimately lead to secondary hypothyroidism. Now that we are familiar with the causes and mechanisms of this disease, let's move on to the clinical features of hypothyroidism. Since thyroid hormones affect almost all systems of the body, their deficiency can lead to a wide range of symptoms in different parts of the body. One important manifestation is goiter. In some types of hypothyroidism, especially primary forms, decreased thyroid hormone levels lead to increased TSH, which overstimulates the thyroid gland. However, since the thyroid cannot produce enough hormones, the cells begin to proliferate and increase the number of follicles in an attempt to compensate. The result of this process is enlargement of the thyroid, known as goiter. From a metabolic perspective, when thyroid hormone levels are low, the body's metabolic rate slows down. This means less energy production, and patients often experience persistent fatigue and weakness. As a result, cold intolerance develops, and patients often feel cold. On the other hand, because the body uses less stored nutrients due to reduced catabolism, unexpected weight gain may occur. The skin often becomes dry and dull, and the hair becomes thin and brittle. In the neurological system, when neuronal activity slows down, the patient may experience mental slowing, decreased concentration, and drowsiness. In some cases, depression may also be seen. If the condition is long-standing, reflexes may also become slower, and the body responds more sluggishly to stimuli. Decreased thyroid hormone levels can also cause cardiovascular problems. Under normal conditions, these hormones regulate cardiac activity by increasing the sensitivity of beta receptors in the heart. When hormone levels decrease, the sensitivity of these receptors is reduced, and the patient may develop bradycardia, meaning a decreased heart rate. These hormones also affect blood vessels. When their levels are low, blood vessels become more constricted and narrower, which can lead to increased blood pressure. But it doesn't stop there. When metabolism decreases, cholesterol utilization is reduced, and the liver also removes less cholesterol. As a result, cholesterol accumulates in the blood vessels, increasing the risk of obstruction and ischemic events. In the gastrointestinal system, due to decreased intestinal motility and secretions, patients often experience constipation. Hypothyroidism can also affect the reproductive system. In women, it may cause menstrual irregularities or even reduced fertility, and in men, it may lead to problems such as decreased libido or sexual dysfunction. In the most severe form of hypothyroidism, a condition called myxedema coma can occur. This is a medical emergency and can be life-threatening if not treated. Myxedema coma usually occurs in patients who have had long-standing severe hypothyroidism and have not received proper treatment. And in addition, their body is exposed to physical or psychological stress. In this condition, the body's metabolism decreases dramatically and the function of all systems slows down. This leads to a series of dangerous symptoms that can even be fatal. Hypothermia. Due to decreased metabolism and energy production, body temperature drops significantly and may even fall below 35 degrees Celsius. Bradycardia and reduced perfusion. As cardiac activity slows down, heart rate decreases and blood supply to organs becomes insufficient. Decreased brain activity and coma. Lack of thyroid hormones reduces neuronal activity, and in severe cases, the patient may enter a coma. Myxedema. Decreased metabolism leads to reduced breakdown of GAGs, causing them to accumulate. These substances absorb water and deposit in tissues, leading to swelling and characteristic tissue changes. I hope you've learned everything you needed up to this point. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, make sure to subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. Thanks for staying with us until the end, and see you in the next video.